We have not talked about who is arguably the single most important Knick long-term yet, and that's RJ
Okay.
Barrett. I think you could probably say Julius Randle for all the wrong reasons right now, but RJ Barrett was supposed to be like, that was the blue chip prospect, the swing player who, if he hit, could really change the trajectory of this franchise even more so than Julius Randle. What is the concern level is the phrase we're using a lot on this podcast. What's the concern level of him this season? And I think I'm not worried, but defensively, I think he's been like mostly fine this year. It's the offense. And I'm just curious as to, I even think, he's shooting piss poor on corner threes this season, and he's always done really well on those. That'll be fine. I'm just wondering, and I think I asked you about this on the preseason pod, if there are like too many offensive cooks in the kitchen now to where he doesn't have a lot of what's happened might be on him, but does he have the room to even like test or expand what he can do on offense at this point? And because when you do dig into like his usage data, it does seem, whether it's because he's too hesitant or this is sort of an edict from how the coaching staff wants him to play, that he doesn't have the ball as much. And even when he actually has the ball, he's not creating as much with it. And so are they trying to turn him into just like this more complementary offensive player than someone who might be not a focal point, but like a really major part of your offensive game plan? What have you made of his offensive season so far?
So, we've been getting a couple of Knicks fans arguing on behalf of RJ that he's being used poorly. And I think, look, to our larger conversation about Julius, I think anybody playing next to Julius Randle right now is going to struggle. That being said, part of the struggles of this starting five aren't just that Julius isn't hitting shots. RJ's jump shot, not even was broken, was non-existent for like the entire month of November. Now there's reports that he was sick, like dealing with a stomach bug for a couple weeks, like had to leave a nationally televised game against Brooklyn because like his stomach issues were that bad, then missed the next game against Chicago. Then he had he came back against Denver, looked bad. And then in the post game, Tibbs mentioned like something about how RJ just needs to get back in the gym because that's what he did last year to fix his shot, but he's been sick. And John and I have disagreed about whether that was calling out RJ for not being in the gym or whether him just explaining, yeah, he's been sick. When he's not sick anymore, he'll get back in the gym. Came out the next game and had like 35 against the Spurs and looked great. And then, as always, entered into health and safety protocols. So RJ's literally his immune system has failed him, it sounds like, this year, which is why it's like, I'm not even saying like I blame him for that. It's just like, it's tough to really gauge or evaluate anything from what he's done this year, other than the first 2 weeks. It looked like he might've taken a leap. Then he went into a shooting slump that nobody could explain and extended out to like 4, 5, 6 weeks. I'm not out on RJ Barrett. I think this has just been a weird year for everybody in the starting five. I think the lack of shooting has been contagious in the starting five as well, because he'll also have these Fournier streaks of like, I'm 1 for 7, and all of a sudden I'm 3 for 3. I would look at his finishing at the rim numbers as far as people that say whether or not RJ isn't being used well enough, because anytime he gets the ball, he gets to the rim successfully and is just like the worst finisher. I know he's been better this year, but he hasn't been good this year. There are so many poor attempts to make a layup in traffic from RJ Barrett where he doesn't get into the body, that he doesn't actually like try to finish. He's just hoping to get bailed out by a call. And that, I think, has been honestly more concerning than his jump shooting, which I think with time will come. So I don't know if he's like was given the reins to if he was given the reins to the offense, we saw what it might look like. And that version of RJ hasn't been here since the first like 5 or 6 games of the season.
And he's always kind of, since he entered the league, like he can be aggressive and it's good, but then it sort of peters out where it's not consistent. And to your point, he is shooting a career high percentage at the rim, but that's only 57%.
Right. It's not good.
If people want to know, it's not good. He is. And I will say about his shooting, I think the struggles have always been overplayed because I think the corner 3-point shooting is an outlier. He's hitting 36% of his above the break threes this year. And in a year where shooting is down in general, and where you kind of had to wonder, what happened last year? Was it like the limited fans there? Like, was there some sort of that involved? That doesn't worry me either. I don't even know if he's being used improperly so much as the Knicks' pecking order of offensive options now. I feel like they might have leaned into one or two signings too many, focused on the offense over the offseason, especially if they were going to rely on Julius Randle still to this extent. It leaves RJ in sort of this like really gray area in his terms of his mode of operation. I ultimately just think there's probably some medium between what he was last year, what he's done this season, and then there's still, I still think there's a better on-ball player there, though, is what I'm getting at. I just don't know whether the Knicks right now have the bandwidth or the desire to explore it.
I think the counterpoint is that we've seen RJ show flashes that when he has it going, like they'll go to him, they'll run the offense through him. There's been like 4 games this year where RJ's, but that's the thing. Like those are really the only 4 games where he showed up and been that. There's been very few games where RJ has it going and they're not giving it to him. Like when he has it working, okay, looks like we're calling plays for RJ this entire quarter. And like Tibbs will then play him more minutes, then play him with the second unit so he can get minutes with them. And like this is where I think overall the performance of RJ is a lot on RJ. I don't blame him for getting sick. I don't like want to say like it's his own fault because things happen. I think largely like you're gonna give more of a responsibility to a guy that's shooting poorly, that other than Julius Randle, that doesn't make sense to me,
Yeah, I mean, they could do a better job of untethering his minutes to Julius Randle might help him, because you mentioned RJ plus bench units or RJ plus whatever. He has, I should have refreshed this before, but he's played fewer than 200 possessions without Julius Randle this season. And if we're going to say that Julius Randle's making everyone worse right now, I think you can displace some of the blame onto. Again, I don't even know if the Knicks are using him improperly. I don't think they are, actually, relative to the personnel that they have. I need to see RJ Barrett, to me, needs to have more runway to breathe on offense. I'm not even talking about spacing, just because the Knicks, again, are a good 3-point shooting team overall. I need them to plumb the depths of RJ Barrett more. I don't want to say that too many times, but like I need to see it. We're in year 3. And I think there's more to offer there. And I don't think they've given him that level of opportunity this season.
I think when he's had it going, they have, I guess. And I think,
but you can't just ride the hot, like this is someone who's still really young. Like
I see what you're saying. I just think that very early on in the game, like RJ will have over 4 first quarters. And then it's like, okay, like we know how this game's going to go based off the track record of the last 3 years. We know if we're getting a good RJ game or a bad RJ game. And like 0-4 from 3 might also be coincided with 1 of 4 from 2, and all 4 of the shots are at the rim. So like, look, I opened this about RJ by saying like, I don't blame anybody also for struggling next to Julius Randle. There is a clear central constant problem with this team where I'd love to see RJ get more minutes with the second unit. I think if he had taken a leap, there would be nothing the Knicks could do about holding him back. I think that leap has been minimized because, like, again, there's a game early in the season against the Pelicans where the team was struggling. Pelicans didn't have Ingram or Zion. The game was close down the stretch, and RJ closed out the game, like took all their shots down the stretch. I think he had like 36, 37 points. And like since that time, that version of RJ hasn't existed. And like other than a couple of flashes. And I don't think it's an overall schematic issue. I think he shot poorly, and the schematic issue might be a Julius Randle thing, but I also think RJ hasn't necessarily earned the extra possessions where they're running the offense through him,